Welcome back, everybody, to the Unversed podcast. Danny here. Today, we are talking about Dr. Stone. Reviewed Volume 1 for Viz. Great opportunity. Thanks again, Viz, for letting us do that. And I thought, I think I should read this. So I bumped it up on the list, it was already on there. So, when the time came, I was like, it's time to read it. Let's check it out. I am caught up to the latest chapter, as of this recording. And I gotta say, this is a good one. I can see why this is, top ranked right now in Shonen Jump. Where to begin? I mean, we'll pretty much, where we go from volume 1 of Dr. Stone is, an interesting route, right? We already have the conflict set up. We have our factions, and just the fact that we get all these new characters very quickly, and we forget the old characters for a long time in the manga, I think was an editorial decision, right? Because, like Eyepatch Wolf said in his video, it's very, how do you call it? His Dr. Stone's friend, right, was not the best character, right? Even the lady that he liked probably wasn't the best character either. There was really not a lot going on. And, we just have the antagonist. So, I think, the editorial department at Jump was like, you know what? We need something else. As great as these characters are, we should probably go a different direction. And doing that, they decided, okay, well, we're making this setup right now. They created this whole village of descendants of astronauts that survived this, stone phenomena. We didn't know it at the time. At the time, it was just, I wonder how, these people were born. Maybe people woke up before me, right? Going in the main character's head and thinking like, well, something had to happen, right? So that was already very interesting. I'm like, wow, there's a village, and the interesting thing too is, when we find out it's from his dad's crew, right? Cause we find out his dad became an astronaut. The interesting part is that they all still spoke what I'm assuming is fluent Japanese, right? Because if you watch shows like The 100, it's like literally 100 years later, or over 100 years later, after they nuked the Earth, and excuse me, and there were survivors on Earth, and, what they spoke wasn't any known language. It was sort of English, but then sometimes it was just like, it'd be mixed up with some jumbles of the language, and that was just 100 years, Here, we're talking like 3,700 years of these descendants keeping the language alive. It's for the manga's sake, but I think, if we're talking about our main character, like we're talking about him, especially with the things that he does later on, I'm pretty sure he could have figured out the language and, start speaking in their dialect sort of sense, right? So, other than that, the interesting part was like, oh wow, there's descendants, and, this is when like the real science started happening of like, okay, well, I need to develop, this, and that in order to fight back. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's see how this goes. And, it's one of those informational types of manga where, it shows you the process, lets you explain it step by step, and, entertaining through and through. I wasn't really bored at any of the science content or how they got to where they were for the steps. It was made in a fun way. So that's big props to this manga. Now, just how they get to where they are now. Okay, so in the newest chapter, they're launching their assault with a goddamn tank. Like, they got electricity, they created a radio system, transportation, using, like the steamboat tech, like it's getting pretty crazy in Dr. Stone right now. I didn't think we were going to get to this level. The fact that there's electricity, was a big deal. Creating glass and then getting all the right, materials just to produce electricity. And it was pretty crazy. Like it was it's advancing very fast, and if it wasn't for the conflict, who knows how farther they would have gone, to advance it. I think that's an interesting route in itself, right? So, then we have that going on. The new cast is, is kind of generic if you really look at it. Right, so we have the now new second scientist, right, from the, what's it called? From the actual colony, village, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, he is just pretty much a rehash of our old character, right? Let me just pull up some here. Taiju, right? Taiju's the old character. But he's pretty much just, talking about the new guy, he's pretty much just the same person. The only difference is, the science aspect of it, right? He's already kind of, what's it called? He's interested in this kind of stuff. So, what we get is this character who's like, hey, these rocks looked interesting. I just start collecting them. And then, we have our boy going like, oh, wow, well, these are this and this and this type of mineral, this kind of this and that. Like, that's really interesting how their science still finds a way. And like, that's, what's it called? The whole point of our perspective is just like, well, yeah, that, the protagonist's viewpoint is like, no, like science civilization will prevail. We need it intact. And, the manga does a good way of showing that is still accurate. Other than that, art style is still fantastic. I will say Boichi, he's great and all. Like, his art is just amazing. But like, I could see like when his comical art style comes in, or even just like he'll draw here and there where I feel like, is this kind of like being lazy? I get that his type of quality is probably time consuming, so get as much simplistic art as possible. But other than that, it's great. Storytelling is just fantastic. I'm glad that this duo is happening over at Shonen Jump. Just a reminder, like it's the author of iShield 21, right? And the artist is the mangaka that did Sunken Rock, right? Two of some pretty good mangas right there. And you're combining those powerhouses into one manga. Yeah, that's why Dr. Stone's doing really good, I think. Just the fact that they made this type of science stuff interesting and simple to understand, is pretty great. And yeah, just the fact, like, how advanced that they got in such a short amount of time. And that's also the interesting thing too, is like, we see it in our perspective, right? Week by week, we read these chapters, and you never grasp the sense of time in the manga unless it's, told to us, right? I forget what step they were at. They were getting close to, they had to make medicine for one of the characters, like the princess of the village, if you will. And it was like a 6-month process. But reading it, you wouldn't think like this took 6 months until they said it at the very end. It finally took us this long, but we made it. So that was an eye-opener right there too. Which is, it's, the Stone Age essentially, so time's not really a factor when it comes to that until we get to the point where, we have to focus more on, the other opposing faction, right? Only when that's involved is when there is a time limit, that matters. So, I think that's an interesting balance, right? I mean, the medicine stuff sure was main plot wise, but it wasn't by any means crucial, right? Or story changing. I mean, it would just put complications into the plan, but no, I mean, it wasn't a significant dilemma, right? As opposed to like, well, we have to stop these guys from destroying all the statues, right? Of people. And, yeah, so that's important. So we'll just make sure that time frame is key, right? We can't waste any time for that. So I think that's interesting. It's a good balance, right? Because then you could throw in like some filler stuff maybe here and there, which there's not really not a lot of distractions for the characters. Individual character growth does happen, with these villagers, which is great to see. Even, it could be as subtle as a couple pages to like a whole chapter or two per character. And, it's written all well again. So check out Dr. Stone, man. It's only at like, almost at 80 chapters. So, I mean, wait, if it gets even more popular, potential anime, so get on it now or just wait until we get a possible anime. But yeah, this is definitely worth your time. I'm having real fun with it. And, it's been a while since I looked forward to new chapters of new manga, right? Whereas, oh man, there's a new Dr. Stone chapter. I'm gonna read that first before I get into these other mangas. Because I want to know what's going on. They got me hooked right now. We're like right in the middle of this arc. And it just hit the climax. So I'm definitely looking forward to where that's gonna go. While we wait for those chapters, remember you can always email us at unversedpodcast@gmail.com for any question, comments, concerns. Did you check out Dr. Stone yet from our old review? What did you think? Let us know. And you can follow us at Unversed Podcast anywhere on social media to stay caught up with the latest episodes. And that is all we have for you today, guys. Thanks again for listening. And as always, we will talk to you next time.
ジャックが仲間になった。